So this is Christine Connors from Dow Jones, who talked to us actually last week about the work that Dow Jones is doing in the semantic web. And the first question I'd like to ask is, of Christine personally, is how did you actually get into the semantic web technology field?
So I have a library and information science background. I actually was a librarian, and the funny thing was, is in library school you have to take pretty much 3 core classes. One of those is cataloging and classification. I hated my cataloging and classification class, which is a little odd considering what I do now. But I think it was because I was so frustrated with the old school way of doing things. I knew that there was more that could be done. Rather than the old formats of bibliographic data for books. There was a more granular layer that you could get at and provide greater value for it. And so while I was employed at Raytheon, I actually left the library. I was running a corporate library for one of the units at Raytheon. I ended up moving into IT, which some of the librarians thought was just, I was called a traitor at one point. But I ended up moving into IT to do a knowledge representation project and working on enterprise search and content management and that sort of thing, and found my way into the semantic web from there. It just seemed a natural path, and I think it's a natural path for probably a lot of librarians.
So now you're Dow Jones. What sort of data is being processed in Dow Jones? We only know it from
most people think of the Dow.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average.
So what sort of data is being processed? What is the business of Dow Jones?
So Dow Jones has 2 major business units. We have a couple of business units, but the big ones that people know about are the consumer media group, which is where the Wall Street Journal lives, where Barron's, Smart Money, and those kinds of properties live. And then we have the enterprise media group, which is where the indexes, the news wires, and such live. And so on that's where I am in the enterprise media group. And we do have a stable of journalists and editors, but we also do a lot of third-party content aggregation. And then one of our largest products is a suite of tools under the Factiva brand, which a lot of librarians will know because we sell it into corporate and academic libraries as a research tool. It's a research platform, really. And so we take third-party data, combine it with our own Dow Jones data, and then push it out on a web-based UI. And so it's a lot, obviously, yes, we have a lot of financial data, but we're not a financial company. We don't generate that data per se. We obviously do the indexes, but we also then have a lot of business data.
So how did you, or how does Dow Jones now use the semantic web or semantic web technology?
So we have, so it's funny, as I've traveled around the country getting to know the semantic web and meeting people, there seems to be 2 different camps, but there's 2 different camps on the West Coast, and there seems to be 2 different camps on the East Coast. So there's the natural language processing side of things and the AI side of things, machine learning and whatnot. We use all of that. We do entity extraction and normalization and rules-based coding, and we use training sets and all that sort of NLP type process. We also have what's called Dow Jones Intelligent Indexing, which is a human-curated taxonomy. It started as a taxonomy, and it's morphing into more of a concept base, even as we speak. And so we use the best of both worlds. We find the technology, we find a very discrete problem that we need to solve. We find the best technology to help us solve that problem, because it's not cost-effective to have humans tagging everything. We use the right technologies, but we also have some very, very smart people who do coding, who do QA, who write the rules, who manage the taxonomies.
So what are the challenges that Dow Jones has with all this data?
Some of the challenges are normalizing the data, integrating various philosophies about how you code the data. Aboutness, do you code an object for what it's about? Do you code an object for what it mentions? Inline coding, there's a variety of different things that you need to consider. We also have a speed concern. So some of our products, algorithmic trading products, for example, that data needs to go out very quickly. It's measured in milliseconds. And so we need to make sure that we have ultra low latency on on the technology stack. So there's a host of different problems, and we have a lot of really smart people who are working on it, thank God.
Excellent, and we saw one of them last week as well.
We did, we met, unfortunately she couldn't be here tonight for this interview. Boreana, who works with me, she's one of my metadata managers, who's just a phenomenal resource, and hopefully y'all get to see her again soon.
Yeah, exactly. We'll hope that she'll be back to see us at some point. Well, and then I guess the question that a lot of people would like to know: will there be any semantic metadata available to customers, or at least to the outside world in some way, some form?
Right now, we do within the product for our subscribing customers. They do have access to the tags, everything that we've coded, and in fact, we use it for our own search and browse mechanisms, and they can see the data. As to whether or not we will make, so I think some people have heard me talk about how I'd love to make DJII public. It's not a done deal yet, but you know, I would love to be able to do that, and I think that this is me being bold, but I think that our leadership team is beginning to see the value of that as well. Hopefully, I won't get fired for that.
we hope not either. So, any final words or so on the subject?
Really, I'm grateful for the New York Semantic Web community, and really the virtual communities too. They're fantastic. I think it's a great way to learn. I think that that the hybrid approach is still the best, using the technology and the humans together. I think that we have a lot of work to do on the UI layers, the security layers, as you more know. And the business cases, the user cases. A lot of businesses are still trying to figure out, why do I need to care? We have our own problem with meaning, with semantics. You know, what is this Web 3.0 thing? But I really see a great future, a really great future coming.
Well, thank you very much, Christine, for this interview, and thank you for talking to us also at the Semantic Web Meetup last week.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Martin.